Welcome. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at Playposit. It was formerly known as EduCanon, and we're going to be looking at it as a means of supporting the pedagogy of correction. Now, Playposit is many of the tools can support other pedagogies as well. In fact, it can support the pedagogy of conversation too. But I'm going to talk about it in terms of correction because there's a wonderful role that it plays in terms of formative assessment, building correction into the learning process rather than a form of summative assessment. So the whole pedagogy of correction is around the premise that we learn best through our mistakes. We need to make ourselves vulnerable because it's only when we are vulnerable that we enable ourselves to really be empowered to learn. Now, one of the biggest problems we have with video is that video is very static. It's all about passive consumption. So the student sits there and watches a video and typically absorbs very little. Well, with Playposit and similar tools to this, we can build activity into our video. And that's very exciting because essentially what we're doing is we're forcing the students to stop and think. So one of the most powerful pedagogies of our activated classroom is the pedagogy of correction, encouraging mistakes because it's through those mistakes and understanding the things we don't know that we learn. So rather than videos just being a passive watching process, as you're sort of experiencing at the moment, what about rather being engaged? So very important, keep your wits about you as we look at Playposit. Playposit to support the exciting pedagogy of correction. Right, once you've logged into Playposit, Playposit.com, you can log in a number of ways. It actually connects directly to Edmodo and can be integrated to Edmodo. You can log in, you will come into your account where it'll have all of your details. It'll have what are called video bulbs. Now, video bulbs are essentially your videos that you have now embedded a variety of questions into them. So that's called a video bulb. You can also check your students. You can have your students coming in from your various classes if you're using Edmodo. And then there are obviously some other options if you want to go premium. Basically, the premium options allow you different types of questions. But even without that, Playposit provides lots of opportunities. So you can have various tutorials. You can see the different classrooms that you've got running, etc. It's all relatively straightforward. So what I want to do is talk you through the process of creating a video bulb or building interactivity, and in this case, around the pedagogy of correction into our video. So it's a pretty straightforward process. All you need to do is go to Design Video Bulb. Right, the first step is it's going to ask you for the URL of your video. So ideally what you need to do is have your video uploaded to YouTube. You don't necessarily even have to make that video so that it is publicly available. It can't be private, but what you can do is have it as unlisted. So if you want to keep it so that no one knows about it specifically, you can put it up onto YouTube as unlisted. Otherwise, if it's publicly available, that's fine. And so you need to grab that video URL and place it in here. And you'll see that you can paste URLs from various sources, YouTube, Vimeo, etc. And once you've pasted your URL, you simply hit continue. And then you fill in a few details. Right, there's a couple of options down the bottom here. You can choose what level it is. Maybe it's a school type thing. You can choose what sort of subject it is. A whole lot of them. Let's call it technology. And in some cases, there may also be a subtopic as well that you can put in. There's an option here to allow the students to rewind during questions. So that's up to you. What that basically means is when they hit a question, they can go back and look at the answer. So that depends on how you would like it to work. Obviously, what I'm interested in, specifically in this pedagogy of correction, is I'm happy for the people to get it wrong. I'm happy for them to engage it and understand they didn't concentrate, or they didn't think, or they didn't get it. So I'm going to leave that rewind during questions to off, and we're going to hit begin building. Okay, so what you'll now see is the details of the video that are up here. This is a video that deals with digital addiction, and the video will appear on the top over here, and it's really straightforward. So what basically we're going to do is you hit the play button and your video will begin to play. Now, what we need to do is at various points in this video, we want to put in reflective points or moments when the student is going to stop and have to think about something. So either you can sit and listen to your video and find those points, or if you already know where they are, you can just drag along and find a point where you think, okay, somewhere around about here, I want to put in a question. So you can quite easily see what's going on and the point where I'm going to put my question into the video.
Ended digital task switching to the effects of cocaine on the brain.
Right, so maybe at that point I want to put in a little question. So very simple. All we now do is over here we click Add Question. On the right hand side you will have some options. We can add a multiple choice question, a free response, a reflective pause, or there are others that you can use, but you will notice that they are grayed out, which means you can't have those options unless you upgrade. So I'm just going to go with a simple little multiple choice question. Right, there are a whole lot of options here, and it's a rich text formatting environment. So you can type in your question, you can upload images, you can even put audio into your question and all sorts of formatting. But I'm just going to put a simple, straightforward question here at the moment. Right, once you put your question in, you have various options now for your multiple choice at the bottom here. So we can now put in our multiple choice again. We can even upload images if we want that to be part of the potential answers, put in audio and bold, and do all sorts of rich formatting on our answers. You'll notice also for each answer, what you can do is you can put a description as to why that answer is correct or incorrect. So that is additional information. And if you want to add more options, you simply click Add Answer and you now have another option. So you can choose as many as you like. When you are correct, or when you've completed, you just simply click which is the correct one. So I might just add a little bit further information as to why certain answers are not right. Okay, so once you've done, it's telling you at the moment you are sitting at position 32 in your video. Do you want to place the question at position 32? And you simply choose yes, that's where I want it, and you hit save. So again, what's now going to happen is the video is going to continue until we get to another point where we want to put another question in. Right, I've found another spot. I want to put a question. Again, same process, just add question, and I can go through the same process of putting another question. Again, once you're happy, you simply choose save, and it saves that one at that point. So you will notice that at each little point, there is a line to indicate. So if I roll over them, I can see which question and where it's at, and I can easily then jump back to any of those questions. So we basically continue on with this process, adding more and more questions through the video. So in addition to adding a normal multiple choice questions, sometimes what you might like to do is put a free response where students can type in something, or simply put in a reflective pause, a time for them to just stop and pause. That's something really good to do. So I'm about to say something pertinent, and I actually want the students to think about it. So I haven't actually told them. There's some information I'm about to give them. I'm talking about what is the word of the year from a couple of years back, which really made a huge impact and is making a huge impact on the society. I haven't told them what it is. I'm asking them to guess. Now, I don't particularly need to see the answer because they're about to hear it from me right now, but I'm trying to force them to think. I'm trying to force them to become active. And in fact, if they're wrong, which is in all likelihood they are going to be wrong because they've never heard this, it's most unlikely to get it, but just by stopping, thinking, and saying, okay, I think the word of the year was selfie. Well, that was one of the words of the year, but it wasn't this one. Or was it a smiley or an emoticon, or what was it? That's fine. Let them guess. Shout it out of the computer. That's okay. That's what the pedagogy of correction is all about. Forcing those opportunities, those learning opportunities, those teachable moments. And often, because the students are possibly doing this by themselves, watching the video, they're quite prepared to make themselves vulnerable and guess something. That's what we want, because once they open up to the opportunity to learn, they are more likely to learn. And so I can now save this question at that time.
Binge watching. That basically refers to sitting in front of your TV, Netflix or whatever it is, and watching an entire season.
Okay, so that's the process that we follow, and we continue on with this process, adding more and more questions, as many questions as you like. Again, each question creates a wonderful opportunity to engage our students in the pedagogy of correction, and ultimately also through the pedagogy of conversation as well. Right, when we have added all our questions, we now simply hit Finish Build. So what you can do is you can assign this to one of the classes that you have set up. So if you've set up various classes via Edmodo or by setting up the classes here in Playposit, you can now assign this to one of those classes. Again, you can also have the date that you want this to be viewed or completed by, and so you can simply choose a date whenever you like. Doesn't make a difference. You can choose it for a long way away, whenever. So you just now choose some sort of date, and that is then assigned to that date. When you're done, hit close, and it provides a due date for when this particular lesson must be done. And hit save, and your lesson is now ready. Now, finally, all that needs to happen is you've got some options here. You can simply share this URL with your students. So if you're using a space like Edmodo, you could take this and just paste it into Edmodo. Or if you want to put it into a website, there's even some embed code here, and you can change the size of what this is going to look like. Lastly, you can also choose whether people have to register or not. So for example, if I use this in one of my courses, like teaching the activated classroom, and I don't necessarily want you to have to go through the extra step of registering, I would leave that as off. Obviously, there is a benefit if we do have them to register, because then we can find out the details of which students have done this, etc., and we can get their performance. So obviously in a classroom, it might be preferable to have it set to registers on. Otherwise, in my case, I'm going to keep it as off. And all I need to do is now copy this URL and share it. And once we've done that, we are done. And you can now go back to managing your bulbs, which will return you to your website once again. So this will bring you back here. And so I can now see my latest one is here and ready for me to assign to and give to whichever students I want. So that is Playposit. Very exciting. A great way of getting your students involved in the pedagogy of correction, letting them learn through the process, turning videos from something which is just passive consumption by applying a layer of correction over it. And there we have the activated classroom teaching pedagogy of correction.